Okay, there we are. Sorry about that, guys. I had to, forgot to set one little item. That's all it takes. Okay, tonight we're going to be talking about Dungeons and Dragons, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and other paper role-playing games that were fanned out from that start. And we'll be having a few other guests join a little bit later than normal. We've got some timing issues that popped up, and as soon as we can get them in here, we will. Um, as far as little odds and ends to kind of toss out there before we get started, there's a lot of buzz that Pokemon Go may actually make it to Windows 10. Apparently, Microsoft's dropping some big dough for it, so I'm sure it'll happen.
Right.
Money dictates where that stuff ends up, and if somebody drops down enough figures, you'll put it on any platform.
It talks.
But the makers of that game are also getting ready to create a Harry Potter style game based off the same premise. And
Yeah. What's up with that?
that'll be interesting. I don't know a whole lot of info on it just yet. But there, it seems like a pretty interesting idea. It's going to be based around the way the shops and the gyms work more than it is the scouting for items laying about. So I'm not sure how that's going to play out. It's nothing more than a concept at this point. If some of you will notice, there's been a slight name change, and I wanted to address that so there's no confusion. We noticed that there was another channel with the same name as ours that had been around for 2 years, and out of respect to them, we decided to modify our name and change everything around a little bit so that we're not riding on each other's feet like that. Um, also, Rick will be doing, it looks like he's going to be doing a hardware review show and news on hardware components for both consoles and other devices. I'm not sure. You want to maybe go into the specifics on exactly what you want to cover with it?
Well, just all the new tech that comes out. I want to try to, whatever comes out for a particular week, I want to go over, the news that's released for it at that time and then share it with everybody else who watches or who keeps up with our channel. That's it, basically.
Okay, cool. Also, James has been doing some streamed gaming, and so has Britt. That's where she started, and I've been doing a little bit too, and I think Savad will be doing some shortly. He's trying to figure out his schedule and probably going to back build a library of games and then kind of release them as needed. There's a lot more that we're going to do with the channel. We're still organizing ourselves to make it happen. Work is kind of a big factor for all of us because we all have jobs and stuff, so we have to time when we have time to do that, plus the stuff we need to do around the house too. And there's the only other real newsworthy thing this week, because it seemed like everything dropped last time, was that there's a huge update for the Xbox dashboard this week, or sometime within the next 2 weeks, and that one's going to have Cortana integration, and you'll be able to pretty much do anything on the console without touching a button. Starting parties, stuff like that, and then they're going to have because I'm using the, I guess it's called the early preview dashboard, and it is so much more organized to find your games. You can just go to a letter, go down to the letter your game starts with, it's right there in front of you, and roll with it. Makes it a lot easier. But other than that, that's about all there was this week.
Wow.
No other major news that we should go over before we dive in?
If somebody knows something, they're more than welcome to drop the bomb. I honestly tried to scrape for stuff, and then unless it was just kind of outside the geek realm and not really relevant to what we usually talk about or much interact with, it just didn't seem like there was a whole lot going around.
Well, actually, I just had posted an article today talking about. So, do you guys remember back in probably around 2011, 2012, there was a StarCraft MMO being developed by some fans.
Yes, I vaguely remember that.
Oh.
Well, apparently Blizzard is not going to shut it down, and it's gone in beta now.
Oh.
So I thought that was real interesting. That Blizzard's like, okay, you guys can do this. StarCraft
Yeah.
MMO. That sounds interesting.
I am very interested to see where they go with that.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Very
Trying
interesting.
to make sure nobody's being left out in our chat room there.
Oh, what was it?
So-
So I think it's interesting. I don't know if there's been very many instances where like a big company just like let uh a a meager peon make something with their name
yeah.
and then release it.
To
I
my
don't know if they
knowledge,
don't
that's
shut it down.
never
I think that's
happened.
cool.
Yeah.
Huh?
To my knowledge, that's never happened because there were some
Really?
fans that tried to make a Sonic game, and
Yeah.
I believe Sega crawled all over them over that. If what I remember is correct, they got really upset with that stuff. I am going to check real quick on our big guest that we have for the evening, and it doesn't look like he's ready yet.
Let me see if I can pull them in.
Okay. If you get disconnected, just let me know and I'll get you back in here. Everybody just have to kind of bear with us. We're running a skeleton crew, but at least we're a properly caffeinated skeleton crew.
Oh, I'm sad. My coffee cup is empty. Can you see my coffee cup?
Isn't that why you have James?
We can't see
Hey,
you
coffee.
right now.
Oh no,
You gotta turn your camera on.
it is on. Do I need to unplug it and replug it up?
You could probably check it under options and see if it's working there. If it's working there, then you'll probably be okay. If not, then you're probably gonna have to unplug it and plug it back up.
Could probably switch it around in the settings, right?
Okay, video's turned off.
Nerds and geeks assisting
Video's
one
turned
another
on.
with typical PC issues.
It's just like work.
I think it's honestly it's probably my fault because every time I start a Twitch or every time I start a stream, every time something goes wrong. It's pretty much expected at this point for something to not work quite right, so I'm usually like a little bit late or I'm like trying to fiddle with OBS or something stupid midway
Right.
through my stream.
And I can totally sympathize with that because getting this show ready last week, my son installed Steam, and he was
Oh
playing,
man.
and he was playing TF2, and I hadn't used the computer because I do most of what I do to get ready for the show on my phone, and I'll throw it on the cloud, then I'll pull it off the cloud onto the desktop and work with it from there as needed. Well, I come in and plop down, and I log in. I was like, "Whoa, that took way too long. Something ain't right." And I was like, "Oh God," because every thought that went through my head was, "Oh man, this is gonna be bad." And I had to uninstall Steam and Team Fortress 2, and then the computer started running normal.
What?
I swear to God, I was like, "There's no way those items could be possibly related to this." And
That's weird.
Yeah, it is. And
Um
yes, we are trying to stall you guys while we wait for a few odds and ends to get straightened out.
Yes.
definitely.
So
Bear
David,
with us.
Maybe.
hey, if you guys want to chat about something while we're trying to get this stuff sorted out, feel free to blow
Yeah.
us up in the chat.
Yeah, throw us some questions.
Uh-oh, here
Actually-
they come.
Hold on now.
Oh, Duke, you suck.
Ha ha ha.
Duke's giving me a tough time.
Did it ask you to push like an accept button or anything whenever I joined the call?
No, ma'am.
Anyone?
And it might have been where we were in a group chat, and it may have to do with Rick not being on your friends list and him not friending you too.
No.
Are you-
Because
He's
Oh.
seen me before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't get that dialog box asking if I want to allow video when you popped in, Brittany.
I had that one, but I clicked accept.
Dum dum dum.
Goodness. Oh my goodness.
Hardware issues.
And this is the story of computers.
So here, I've got a little bit of tabletop related news. So
Okay.
apparently they're going to release a Doom board game.
What?
Yes.
Why not? I got Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, and somewhere around here, I've got I think it's Lord of the Rings Risk or something like that.
I've got Game of Thrones Risk.
Ooh, that might
I've
be
only-
fun.
Yeah, I've only got to play it once, so maybe we'll have to use it for game night when we get around to doing
I feel
that.
like I've played that once.
Speaking of
Only one
game
time
night,
though.
this would be a good time to mention to everybody that we were discussing on doing a game night, but doing it with like the actual paper Dungeons and Dragons, and doing it as a Let's Play. And if you guys got any ideas or any feedback on whether you would enjoy something like that, or
Yeah, definitely let us know.
yeah, definitely shoot us some comments and stuff and let us know. Uh-oh. Somebody sent me a message. It's probably a Mayday.
No, it's just me.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, wait,
okay.
did you all get that? I sent you all a message earlier. There is a channel or group or whatever you want to call it, on Twitch. That is for D&D.
Yes, yes. I believe you sent that not too long ago, actually.
Yeah, I may post it in the chat here if I can find it again.
Yes, please do, because apparently I missed that the first time.
Oh man, it's really cool.
Well, the good news is it appears as if everything's functioning normally. So if there's audio's out or any kind of hiccups, just let us know. Like I say, I'm trying to monitor the chat while we're doing this and getting the last bit of odds and ends sorted out here.
I don't know what's going on with Jason.
I shall shoot him a text.
Let's see. It gives options: Dungeons and Dragons Online, Dungeons and Dragons Tower of Doom, Dungeons and Dragons Tactics.
Interesting.
Oh.
Apologies for being
Oh,
distracted
seems to be
here.
actually
I'm trying to get one of our guests set up.
Our local D&D guru.
Yes.
I still have one of his books. I think he's forgotten about it too.
Shh! Don't tell him.
It's one of his old Ravenloft books.
Oh, there'll be hell to pay for that one.
He gave it to me to create a campaign, and then life happens, and it never happened. So
Oh crap.
And there was so many campaigns that we had where we would get something started, and then crap would happen. It would get forgotten about. We'd come back to it. We'd work some more on it. Then it'd get forgotten about. Then we finally get to play it. And then we'd only get about halfway through it, and then it would get forgotten about again, and then it just disappeared after that. And you're like, damn it.
Well, we should talk about Roll20. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with it, but it's basically a way to play D&D campaigns with your friends over the internet through a web browser.
I have
Oh my God.
heard of some similar software, both PC, binary type, and there's a few in the Metro App Store, and there's several on phone.
Well, this one's platform free. You just got to have a web browser.
HTML5.
I know that that there is a similar product on Steam right now that does pretty much the same thing. Just recently, Roll20 got some licensing from TSR for some of their campaign materials to be already on the website so that you can create your campaign there. It's a pretty cool idea.
I like this app.
Some people will use the grid mapping system on a projector and then aim their projector down at their table, their gaming table, and use that as their game board as opposed to pulling out grid paper or something like that.
If you would like, Rick, go ahead and fire out that invite for Mr. Jason there. We'll get him in.
Oh wait, am I working? No.
You're still wrestling with your camera, aren't you?
I'm still looking at my eyeball. By the way, for some context, that photo is of me in a Wilford costume,
Wilfred.
not being in character at all.
I figured that's who that costume was supposed to be.
We did that. I used to work at a portrait studio. There was a day when we had absolutely no business, and they sent a guy over from a different store because I was the only one working. So we got really bored, and there was just happened to be a Wilford costume in the studio, and we were like, okay, this is convenient. So we decided to take some photos.
Man,
Shh, don't tell anyone
True.
we did
the
high res.
discussions are really blowing up tonight.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on in the chat.
Yeah.
Let's see. I don't really care. I do like tabletop games. Let's see. Glad to see a female here. There aren't enough women in gaming. That was from Duke.
You give us some cred, Brittany.
Oh.
Well, I'll be honest. I didn't know of any female game players as far as D&D went up until we got in our later years, and I think a lot of that was because our wives and girlfriends were like, well, we want to make sure they're staying out of trouble. What is this all about?
I keep trying to add Jason, and he's not answering.
Oh. Poop.
Well, let me...
I don't know if it has something to do with him using the Windows 10, Windows 10 version of Skype
Wouldn't
to a
think.
group call. Well, we group called with him earlier, so I'm not quite sure what's going on right now.
Can you shoot him a message and let him know that he has not friended me yet on there? If you can, I might be able to help him hammer out the kinks in that. I can remember some of the best D&D campaigns were the ones that were not really elaborate. They weren't real long. And we got to spend a lot of time just kind of enjoying the puzzles and playing the game. We didn't have these 3-week periods of putting all of it together and jumping all those hoops and stuff like that. We just kind of got in there and had fun with it. Papa Bear's saying that Hyper RPG on Twitch does BattleTech, Valiant, and Shadowrun.
Ah, Shadowrun. That's a game I never got a chance to play. I would love to.
He said there's one called the Vassal Engine. It's great for doing all kinds of games as well. You can just about do any tabletop game with it.
Oh, I've heard of this before. Yes. Okay, sorry. Yeah, I've actually heard of this. That's great. I completely forgot about that. You can build and adapt, or you can adapt board games to online, or like to stuff.
Kind of
Don't
make
get
it
too
to
worried
where
with it.
it's more friendly to work with Twitch and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. This looks very cool.
I take it you pulled it up.
Oh, yeah.
I found it because I was trying to find a way to play Settlers of Catan online, or in like just in some way, because my friends who actually play board games don't ever really meet very often. Like they have their own groups that they play board games with, but they don't really play board games with each other, which is kind of strange. So I rarely ever got to play Settlers of Catan unless there was a special party and somebody decided to bring it.
Very cool.
I'm not ignoring you guys. I'm kind of monitoring the chat and seeing what else is going on in here because there's a lot of stuff going on in there. I mean, it's I'm glad to see it, because that's one thing that we have been discussing that we needed to have more of, is people actually talking back and forth in the chats to kind of help fuel what's going on and what we choose to do next. Something I did want to mention was, like, anywhere we held a vote for what topic to do this week, like D&D absolutely creamed everything else that was on the list. It wasn't just like a little bit or anything like that. It was like 75% of the vote on both
Right.
polls went for D&D and paper RPGs. He said he's already added me.
Well, he said he just did, or indicated to me, anyways.
Aha, he is. And now we are bringing his ass in here.
Oh man, I love. Okay, so
It's that blue guy again.
what? Malik says that he recently played Betrayal at House on Haunted Hill. I also recently played that, and I really enjoy it.
Oh, I played that a few weeks
Her
ago.
camera's
Oh, man.
working.
I totally forgot about that. Yes, I did play. That's a fun one.
Her camera's working.
Yay!
Great
It's been
success.
showing up on my Skype for the last I don't know how long we've been on the call, but you know. Man,
I will say it is a
quality
little
horrible.
bizarre, because there's an arm growing out of your elbow and a foot growing out of your back. There's somebody on the floor behind you.
Yes.
It's like, what is that?
So is Jason in here with us?
Well,
Yeah, I'm here.
oh, thank God. It's the dog. Jason doesn't have a camera, so we're okay with just voice on him. So, but Birch is kind of our uber guru with D&D, and he's the one that drug us all into it for the most part. Some of the most epic campaigns and battles or dungeons we've ever crawled, he was the instigator behind it. Probably one of the best DMs in the area.
Jason, I was just telling everybody earlier that I still have one of your Ravenloft source books. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I know.
I should have known that you would know that.
He's got, I guarantee you, he's got a list at the house, and he's got asshole, asshole, asshole.
Ship of Horror, I do believe it's called.
I'd have to pull it back out. I've got it someplace safe.
Hey, Birch, what did you start with, like the basic D&D, like the very, very first style of it that was on the real thin paperbacks, or did you start out in AD&D?
I did the AD&D.
See, I couldn't remember exactly where you started at with it. See, I started with the red book that was probably not even that thick, and it even had a single player campaign you could do, and it kind of gave you a pick a path book kind of set up to kind of give you the feel and flow of how those games are supposed to operate. And then I have one more book that was like several campaigns, but it was meant to be dungeon mastered, and me and my brother hadn't yet quite mastered that whole dungeon master side of things, and we never really did. Birch was the one that always seemed to have that knack for running the game. Hell, I don't think half of the games we played he had wrote down on paper. He's pulling that crap out of his ass on the fly. And it was great campaigns.
Jason, how many books would you say that you have in your collection now?
Oh, Lord.
That many, huh?
Yeah, at least 100.
Oh my God.
Wow.
So, which realms do you have in the
All of
D&D?
them.
All of them. Okay, I should have known.
Well, all of the basically the first and second generation anyway.
Gotcha. Not a fan of the more recent rules or revisions.
No, when it went to third edition and all that, it changed the scope of it so much. I really didn't care for it.
Gotcha.
See, that was something I wanted to ask about. What exactly did they change? Because I quit playing after second edition. Because to me, second edition was like the most definitive of the bunch. It was like perfection.
Well, it's kind of like this. Advanced Dungeons and Dragons was kind of difficult to understand, and the second edition kind of cleaned it up a little bit. But when third edition came out, in my opinion, they took a step backwards and started adding more unnecessary rules and stats and whatnot.
So
And
would you say they made it more complicated or tried to simplify it?
they made it more complicated, in my opinion. I mean, there might be people that will argue otherwise, but
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I
no,
think I think the second edition was probably the ticket. I mean, it spelled out the carry weight a lot more than the first edition of the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, where everything was based on gold weight instead of actual pounds.
Gotcha.
and see, that was I've did a little bit of reading and research prior to this episode, and it seemed like there was a huge volume of versions of D&D after second edition. There was like a 3.5, 3.5.
Yeah.
There was a 4, and now there's a 5. And like, I think version 4 doesn't even use the original battle system and stuff. It borrows from some generic system, and then 5 kind of goes back to a homebrew system or something like that. I mean, it's really bizarre, the lineage after the second edition. I think that's one of the reasons why I feel like that's probably the most definitive version of AD&D that there is. Because I remember us playing it forever and had a blast with it for a long time, and we didn't really see any need for any rule changes.
Well, for everybody that's out there watching YouTube who wants to play Dungeons and Dragons, I suggest going to old comic shops or magic shops or anything that sells, old books, and pick up those editions, because, in my opinion, the newer editions that you go to Kohl's and buy right now will probably put a bad taste in their mouth because the rules are so flighty.
Yeah.
I wonder if you could find the previous editions in PDF format now.
Yes.
Very cool. Are they selling those legitimately, or are those obtained through less than savory means?
Yeah, they are. They're not legit.
Gotcha. I gotcha. Okay, so not officially sanctioned by TSR or anything like that.
I'd say you probably wouldn't get trouble as long as you owned the book. But I probably wouldn't recommend you just run out there and grab the PDFs off your local torrent sites.
We are by no means trying to promote that.
Right. Well, back in the day, though, they were websites dedicated to certain campaign worlds that you can download free content. But now you can't, because, times have changed, obviously. So.
Well, TSR got bought by, what was it, Games Workshop, the guys that made Warhammer and all that?
That is something like that, but I'm not sure. But you can definitely tell that the game mechanics favor stuff like Warhammer or Vampire Masquerade or whatnot.
I think it's Wizards of the Coast, isn't it?
Okay, it is Wizards of the Coast. Sorry about that. I know after we got out of D&D there for a while, there was kind of like this hiatus where we played more video games than we did the paper RPGs, because it was a hell of a lot easier to sit down and play something like what was it, Swords and Serpents for the NES, where you could generate your character like a D&D style character and play it in an RPG setting, and it'd take you 2 days worth of rolling dice to build a character and get it set up and all that. You could just build your guy, go into a game, play it, be done. And it seemed like we went through a long phase there where we didn't play a whole lot. And then I started bumping into a game called Warhammer 40,000. And it's one of many games that spawned from the same sources that D&D did. You know, that I guess that dice rolling and that same kind of setup of encumbrance and movement and different
Which you can find
weapons.
in many RPGs now.
Yes, and even a lot of the video game RPGs
Well, that's what I mean.
to this day, when I play them, I go back and look at D&D and go, well, a black dragon doesn't do that, damn it. It spits acid.
That's all. That's our measure against whether or not something makes sense in a new fantasy game. It's like that's not how they do it in D&D.
Yeah, I know.
That's all right.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like almost fighting words or something. It's like, God, that's not right. Red dragons don't spit ice. What's wrong with these people?
And I'm sure it has caused many arguments for those who watched. And I haven't read the books, so I don't know if it's this way in the books either. But in Lord of the Rings, with Gandalf wielding a sword and a staff, and he's a wizard, I'm sure that caused a lot of arguments because I'm sure there's a link between Lord of the Rings as being an inspiration to. I'm sorry, yeah, being an inspiration to D&D.
Hey,
So,
Rick, according to Papa Bear, he said Hasbro bought Wizards of the Coast, who bought D&D. Though
Okay.
he's not looked into it fully all the way here recently, but it looks like that's kind of the same boat they're all in.
okay.
You know, one bigger conglomerate gobbled up the lesser,
Sure.
and as sharks do, they kept swallowing each other. So now it's probably the rights for that stuff's like Hasbro's by definition, but
Right.
it's hard to say who publishes it now.
Jason, you were getting ready to say something?
I was thinking about the comment you said about Gandalf and stuff. Actually,
Yeah.
I don't remember seeing really anything in the D&D to where a wizard is limited to a certain weapon or whatnot. He's not a proficient fighter, so obviously
Okay.
he's not like a sword. But
Right.
I mean, you're Joe Blow, don't know anything, but you can still pick up a sword and start swinging it at people.
Well, see, I was thinking for some reason there were class restrictions as far as types of weapons they could use. Maybe I'm thinking of a different game that had that, not
Well,
necessarily D&D.
In the old, I do believe that was in the old Advanced Dungeons and Dragons that was created by Gary Gygax. But whenever David Cook came out with the second edition rules, it really I don't recall it actually stipulating that a thief has to use a dagger, a wizard has to use a staff, and a cleric has to use a mace.
Gotcha.
I don't remember seeing anything like that, but it's all really Dungeon Master's discretion. If he likes that rule, then he can sit there and go, no, you're not using it.
And see, that's why I think D&D had such a cult following, is that it's kind of like a lot of card games where you play it at one house and you go, what in the hell are you guys doing? And they're like, well,
House
that's
rules.
how we've always played. Well, D&D is kind of like that. They're like, I've played with some people, it's like, fuck the encumbrance rules. That's too much shit to fool with. We're not messing with that. Or we're not fooling with weight. Are you crazy? You know how long it would take to sit here and do encumbrance and weight and all this other stuff? And that's part of what made D&D so alluring, is that you could discard certain parts of the rules and not affect the ultimate end result of the game. It would still be fun, it'd still be enjoyable, and you could trim the fat off if you didn't want it, and if you wanted it, you could pull it in. You had some kind of groundwork to utilize those components.
Exactly true. You do, if you want to add those components, they give you a set of rules of how, I guess, the official stance of going about it, but you don't have to follow every single rule.
And
I mean, if you followed every single rule, your dungeon master would have to be a computer, because there's so much stuff that he would have to keep track of, especially
Right.
if there's 5 or 6 people playing, and he has to keep track of charges and wands and staffs and carry weight and gold and how much water you drank and did you take a leak for that day, or it's crazy.
Hey, Birch, would a tablet make that a hell of a lot easier than it was back in the day, having like a spreadsheet to keep all that shit on?
Searchable database of all the rules.
Oh man,
Well,
that'd be nice.
Because I remember Birch having notebooks, and he'd flip through them and go, "No, you can't do that, dude. You already used that up." And you're like, damn it, I thought I was going to slide one through.
I used to. Don't think I've mentioned this on the stream, but I've mentioned this at one point before. I've really only played D&D once. I've watched many people play, and it took years to get somebody to allow me into their campaign, because every time I don't know, I guess every time I was free and I would ask, they'd be like, "Well, we're in the middle of a campaign," and it's like, "Oh, well,
See, now, me,
well then."
me and Birch and all of us, we'd have been like, "Chick wants in on a D&D game? Hell yeah, make a spot. Move
Well,
over, asshole."
You know, it's kind of like if somebody wanted to join a campaign in the middle of stream, it would not really be hard to work them in. It'd be like, Rick, you had to go to the bar to get a drink, and you met somebody, and they decided to come along. I mean,
Right.
just
Yeah.
run some bull crap in.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of D&D. It's so flexible like that.
Yes.
It depends on.
The group that I did watch, though, my friend did have a notebook which he kept track of everything in. There were a lot of notes.
Oh, yeah. Being a dungeon master is kind of like being an arcane person of knowledge or something. You'll have shelf upon shelf of books that you have to, well, there's a dispute on a rule, and he rolls out the Bible for the geeks and starts thumbing through it. According to page 57 of this book, that's a bullshit move. It's we used to have to reference those books like a library a lot of times, because it was like, well, we're not sure on this rule, so we go back and thumb through them, and thank God for Jason's collection, or there's a lot of them we'd have never known. We'd have had to make it up.
Did you see, I don't know if you saw this, it's been floating around a while. It's it's on a website. It's about how to incorporate D&D into your resume.
Oh,
In
really?
your resume?
Yeah. I could probably find it again.
I believe I know what article you're talking about, because it mentions like people who were dungeon masters and players of D&D have been flat out proven to have better organizational skills and the ability to handle multiple tasks at the same time.
I know that is true for guild leaders in WoW and other MMOs too. That they'll let you put that on a resume, and that's legitimately taken seriously.
Well,
Nice.
there's a lot of organization in being a dungeon master. You have to keep track of maps and which ones connect where. You have to keep track of where the players are going to start, how the story needs to flow.
Statistical data.
Yep.
And
Delegate authority.
but not at the same time, not take away the player's sandbox freedom to do whatever. And see, that's the real thing that I think really started the sandbox games as we know them now. The stuff like Minecraft and Project Solus and a lot of these sandbox style games is you look back on D&D and go, well, hell, you could do anything you wanted in there. If you want to go in a bar and beat the hell out of everybody, it was whatever floats your boat.
Well,
the
your sandbox, though, is a relief for the dungeon master, because it's like, hey, you guys just go do something while I think of some more shit for you guys to do. So, you know what I mean?
But Birch was always perfect about doing it, because he would always give us like a bar setting or something, and we could have this bar fight, and he's over there scripting up the next section of the campaign on the fly. And it was awesome, because it kept us preoccupied and out of his hair long enough to do something. He hated, I tell you what he did hate, was when groups would pair off and split up. He hated that. Damn it, guys.
The idea when you're in a party is to work together, right?
Exactly, but there were times, and there's one campaign I'm thinking of in particular, and Birch will probably remember this as soon as I start mentioning it. But
you're going to go with the dragon and all that. I know what you're going to do.
he knows where this one's going, because one group breaks around one way, one goes the other. And we bump into what appears to be an unassuming guy. And we're like, 4 of us, we're going to fuck this dude up. Well, okay, the guy turns out to be a dragon, and like we are completely unequipped and way under level. And the whole time he's going, I'd run if I was you guys. I'd run. He gave us every chance. So we kept pushing this fight trying to do this, and then we were finally like, screw it, we're running. So we go running down a narrow hallway, and he turns to human form again so he can fit through the hallway. And I turned around, threw a spell on him that reverted him back to his normal form, but he was in a hallway.
Oh, I remember that.
And it busted him to pieces. It busted that whole hallway up. We even got screwed up a little bit from it, but we lived.
Yeah, that was such a unique way of solving that situation.
Yeah,
Who would think to do that?
I think that situation best sums up D&D versus any other RPG you'll play, as far as like video game or otherwise. That was such an off-the-wall solution to a problem. In a video game, your choices would be run and fight, or some kind of scripted something in the hallway, and that's it. That's all you'd be allowed to do.
Right.
But in D&D, the dungeon master can go, well, okay, you know what? If you're going to do that, you're going to have to jump some hoops for it. And if you jump those hoops and the dice let you, I'll let that fly. And that's exactly what happened. Was we rolled the dice, and by God, it landed lucky, and we survived.
Well, I don't remember if this was a part of the same campaign, but do you remember when you found that Vorpal blade? Do you remember that campaign, Jason?
Yeah, I think that was on the same one.
I couldn't remember if it's the same one. But you kept getting critical hits and decapitating all those Death Knights.
And it was like stupid. I think he even made me change dice at one point. He's like, there's something wrong. Nobody can roll that many critical hits in a row.
We got a lot of experience that night.
But see, and we, our group, anytime we played D&D, anybody that wanted to join, regardless of level or whether they were new to the game or old to the game, we would welcome anybody into it because it was like how we hung out. I like what one of my friends told me earlier on Twitter. He messaged me. He's like, honestly, he goes, I think D&D should be a topic for your show because honestly, as far as geeks and nerds are concerned, that's where it all starts for you in a lot of cases. Getting a hold of a D&D book and going, wow, you could really do some cool shit with this. And then you play it and you're like, I got to get my buddies in on this. Then they get in on it and then you get a group going and then it's a camaraderie thing.
Yeah.
And then when video games come out, that kind of moved over to voice chat and Black Ops. But, that's where it moved, to the video game world. And I like that there are still people trying to keep D&D around.
Oh, I think if there's a time for it to resurge, it's now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's featured very prominently in Stranger Things. I don't know if you all have watched that show.
Oh,
yet.
yes. Oh,
yeah, but I mean, right there from the very beginning, you see 4 kids running a campaign. That's fantastic. But I mean, you've got I see people playing board games more now. Card games have been around, deck games have been around forever. And now we've got digital versions of D&D games, like we were just talking about with Roll20 and some of the other ones that were mentioned in chat too. I don't think D&D is ever going to go away.
Well, I don't think it'll ever go away. It's too much a part of pop culture now to ever go away. I mean, it'd be like saying, well, Michael Jackson's name and music will disappear from history. Nah, it'll be around the same way. It's that moment in time, the right thing at the right time, and the right kind of notoriety, and it clicked with the right people, and now it just kind of proliferates from there.
But you gotta realize one of the reasons why it clicked real hard back in the 70s and 80s was because video game technology really wasn't really powerful enough back then.
And I think that's what scared a lot of parents about the game, because I can remember being a kid and hearing tons and tons of negative reports on it, which is kind of ironic because now I hear those same kind of reports, but it's GTA 5 or Doom or something like that. But back then it was D&D that they always. It made them worship Satan and stuff like
Right.
that, and you're like, oh, whatever. They're just playing a campaign, and the kid lost his mind or something. You know,
I think
it's
what
two unrelated topics just happen to
Well,
be
a
coincidental.
lot of that has to do with the artwork on some of the
of course,
monsters and stuff like that.
or just some of the
Parents,
monsters themselves.
yeah, because some parents see some of the artwork
And it
and
scares them.
it looks demonic and stuff, which it is. It's supposed to be. I mean, you are fighting bad guys. I mean, what better bad guys are than people from hell and stuff like that? But
Yes, undead creatures.
but when parents see that artwork, they don't really care much for it. I mean, I remember my dad saw one of the artworks with it was a human with like a head of a jackal, and he didn't really take too kindly of seeing that image.
I can remember some of my friends' parents absolutely would not let the books in their house at all. They were just flat out and to quote, one of the parents was like, those are devil books and you're not bringing them in here. So he came
Right.
over to my house and we played it.
Of course, don't forget about the Menendez brothers. They didn't do any good for it either.
No.
Do you remember? Remember those two brothers who killed their parents so that they could get money to make their own D&D maze or something like that?
Well, on the flip side of that
yeah, look up the old case. It's crazy.
That guy went on to
Menendez brothers?
Menendez brothers, yes.
He moved to like Texas or something. That friend of mine did, and he's like doing really well for himself, making 6 figures a year, working at a high-profile job and everything. I mean, it didn't kill him, and he didn't kill anybody else, and he did just fine, just like millions of other D&D players. If you take any group and say, well, there's some bad shit going on, and then you just pick 5 or 6 guys out of that group, yeah, there's probably going to be some things in common.
People will find a way to do bad things no matter what it is.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree with that more.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. Yeah, no, sorry. That's a whole other topic.
Yeah.
I will say though that I listened to a podcast, or I have been listening to a podcast called Psychology of Video Games.
Mm-hmm.
And thankfully they don't talk about video games or gaming in the sense of like, oh, a video game is evil, it causes everyone to go kill each other. Or cause a lot of problems. It actually talks about benefits of video games and how people, or how a lot of psychologists have conducted studies.
I can
then
be
I'll leave
honest
it
with
at
you.
that.
There was tons of people at Big Bear I would have choked within an inch of their life if it hadn't been for Doom.
It was your release valve?
Yes. I mean, oh my God. But there's a lot of people I know of that go home and slaughter by the hundreds on something similar to Doom or in a fantasy world like Skyrim, and they go to work and they're dressed in a suit. You would never know this person does that. And they're perfectly normal people.
Yeah.
I mean,
Regular like business professionals and whatever, they have hobbies just like everyone else.
Right.
Also, I saw a nice little. It was probably another BuzzFeed article. But it was pictures of all these people, and on a whiteboard they wrote what their occupation was. It was a picture of a whole bunch of cosplayers. So there were like geologists, lawyers, doctors, teacher, like respectable careers.
Right.
And it's the same with anything really.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And I gotta be honest, guys. I've known tons and tons of people who play D&D, and you would never even know it. I mean, I was kind of, like I said, when I was doing some of the research, I was shocked to find out some of the people in Hollywood that are admittedly frequent D&D players. Vin Diesel.
Yeah, Vin Diesel's one.
He's the biggest one. Yeah.
And it's like, holy crap, they're everywhere.
I had read somewhere that when they were filming, oh, what is that movie? Oh, I'm going to lose some cred here because I'm forgetting.
Oh,
Had
for shame.
Judi Dench is in there with them. Oh my God.
Is it something like The Last Witch Slayer or something
No,
like that?
Chronicles of Riddick. Oh my God. How could I
Oh,
forget that name? So when they
Vin,
were filming
oh,
Chronicles of Riddick, I had read that he got Judi Dench to play D&D with them in between
Vin Diesel?
takes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you
Really?
imagine Judi Dench, M from the recent James Bond movies, playing D&D with Vin Diesel? That's just a fantastic sight
Yeah,
to
the bad
imagine.
part
That
is
is.
that's how a fan of D&D gets started. Is somebody goes, "No, seriously, just give it a shot. If you don't like it, I'll leave you alone. But just
Mhm.
give it a try, and we'll see what happens." And it never fails. If you play the game, you're like, "This is so much fun."
Yeah.
All the negative hype is just that hype.
Mm-hmm.
And
Don't knock it till
guys,
you try
we're
it.
closing in on 11:21 right now, so we can
Uh-oh.
Wow. I
we
can't
can.
believe we've spent all this time talking about D&D. It's such a great topic.
I know. I mean, there's other games within that genre of like role playing games. There's Hero Quest. There's
Yes.
Warhammer 40,000, which is one. Those are two of my favorites. I could play Hero Quest till my eyes fell out. Me and my brother had come across that game with all 4 expansion packs in a yard sale,
Hmm.
and we played that game through every one of the campaigns, and it was unbelievable how much we played that game. And we had guys from a local game room. We would set us up a table in the back there next to the foosball table, and we'd be playing like Hero Quest and D&D and stuff like that back here. And they was like, "Hell, I don't care. They're buying pop and stuff."
Right. Which is very commonplace now. You see a lot of public places that have places in their facilities, set up with tables so that you can play your games.
And I would like to see D&D kind of come back up more to the front like it was during the second edition days. Kind of a
I think
return to that.
I think we're going to see a second age for D&D coming up here real soon. I
And
have a feeling.
it's kind of funny that Hasbro bought Wizards of the Coast because they also bought the Milton Bradley, which made Hero Quest. So now they own Hero Quest, D&D, AD&D, um, and Warhammer, and all those others because those were all
Mhm.
tied together in the United States. I think they licensed Warhammer to or Milton Bradley. I can't remember now, but
well, shows like Stranger Things helps reboot stuff like D&D because young audience, watch that movie and they're like, What's those kids playing for 10 hours?"
yeah,
Right.
what's that all
Yeah,
about? And now you got the advent of mobile phones and tablets, and it simplifies a lot of the shit we had to do on stacks and stacks of notebooks. They can have, the whole collection of books that it takes to have all the rules in an easy search database on a tablet, and keep track of everybody's hit points and all that stuff with relative ease now compared to the way it used to be. The way we used to have to do that was character sheets and notebooks and books.
Hey, I still want my character sheet. If we're going to play again, I want that tangible character sheet right in front of me.
Yeah, Jason, we'd had a discussion the other day. Um, we were talking about maybe doing like a Twitch stream or a live broadcast of us all playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, you'd have to be our DM, man. I mean, nobody else would be knowledgeable enough to do it right except for you. You've got over 100 of the books.
the Archmage with his collection.
well, you know, vote for doing something different. All the campaigns I have, probably about the only one that I really never tore into very much was the Spelljammer, the
And that
Dungeons and
one's
Dragons
such
that
an
was in
interesting.
space.
Out
They
of
actually use spaceships in.
Gotcha. That's cool. I didn't know that, but the Spelljammers.
Yeah.
Well, the spaceships is not like Star Trek. They're like
Right.
like a galleon and stuff like that with a magical device on it that allowed it to that gave it propulsion.
Gotcha. So let me ask you this, Jason. So let's say I'm a brand new player to D&D. Which realm within the D&D universe do you think would be the most approachable for a new player? Forgotten Realms or...
Forgotten Realms is probably the biggest, most notable as far as having games and stuff put around it. I experienced my Dungeons and Dragons with Greyhawk,
Gotcha.
but both of them are good. All of them are really good realms. It really depends on what you're wanting to play or how you want to play it. You know, you got your Dark Sun campaigns, which is if you want to create basically a super character, you play that.
Then you got Kryn and Dragonlance.
Yeah, you got Dragonlance. So if you want to live by a lot of rules and don't really create like godlike characters, you've got that realm.
Mm.
You know, each realm has their ups and downs, but I would say Forgotten Realms has by far the most territory because Forgotten Realms also overlaps into character, which is Oriental rule books for like ninjas and stuff like that. So you're on the same planet. You can also play with that rule book too.
Gotcha.
It gives you the most options for how you want to play and giving you the most locations to play in.
The original creators of Dungeons and Dragons, their world was pretty much Greyhawk. You know, most of the writers that wrote those books, their characters like Morgan and Bigby and all Rary and all them. That that's people's characters like Barry Gygax's characters they made for Gen Con, and those characters they hailed from Greyhawk, but some other people created the Forgotten Realms, and it's a big world too. So those are probably, as far as old school goes, are probably the two popular. Anybody who knows anything about the Dungeons and Dragons would probably agree that those are probably the two oldest realms.
Well, guys, we're closing in on about 3 minutes to the end. So, is there any questions, Brittany, that you might have for somebody that's either unfamiliar with or new to?
Or anybody in the chat?
Yeah, either or.
I don't know. Well, no, you already answered that question. Crap. I don't really have very much, honestly.
That's one of the reasons why Jason was always such a good dungeon master, is his way of explaining the rules and what you were to do and needed to do, but still leaving it open to your interpretation of how to do it. Always made the game more fun. You bump into a lot of power-hungry DMs playing this game, and they want to confine you to such a narrow space of movement and how you do things that it kind of sucks the fun out of the game.
Papa Bear says waffles or pancakes. The correct answer is waffles.
That's a tough call. I don't know if I agree with that.
Well, are they Belgian waffles or not Belgian waffles?
A Belgian dip.
We'll have to revisit the pen and paper role playing games because we only talked about D&D and there's a whole bunch of other ones out there too.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of bumped into Hero Quest, Advanced Hero Quest, Warhammer 40K, GURPS is a whole
GURPS?
It's a popular one. Yeah.
generic universal role-playing game rules system or something like that. And it's abbreviated GURPS.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
it's just a basic template for the rules. And you can apply it to anything you want. If you want it to be superheroes, if you want it to be battleships, World War II, then you can use that to apply it for hand-to-hand and projectile weapons and movement and stuff like that, and it's just kind of an empty template. It's a game without a game, and it's up to you to kind of build it and fill it in. And then there's the Macross role-playing game that I have the books for.
A whole White Wolf universe, Vampire the Masquerade, Werewolf, Changeling, all those within White Wolf's universe. We haven't even touched those yet.
And then there's DC and Marvel's universes that are
Yeah.
both in RPG format.
Yeah,
And I remember us being in middle school and playing it.
a lot to talk about.
Yeah, so this is something we're gonna have to like throw out a vote on what people want to hear more of, and kind of let them guide us to which games they want to hear more about. If they want to hear more about some of the more obscure ones, or if they want to go to old favorites.
Right.
Because we could
Yeah,
talk.
there's definitely some obscured Dungeons and Dragons. They even had Conan and Red Sonja.
Yeah, like
Oh, yeah, that's right.
based on the old movies and
Yeah,
the comics before that. But I'm gonna have to thank everybody for coming, and go ahead and close this down
Yeah.
for the evening. We didn't even take a break tonight. We just ran her straight through.
Well,
Jason.
I got one thing to let you know. You guys are familiar with the alignments, right?
Yes.
Yes.
There is a thing on the internet that's like, what alignment are you? And you take this like survey, and you answer it truthfully, and it pops out of you are like neutral good or lawful good or lawful evil or something.
I'm probably
It's like a psychological type questions
Right.
and answers and stuff, and it's like, what alignment are you?
Yeah, because I know a lot of people that try to play characters that don't really match their personalities,
hmm
and you end up with this this character that's kind of playing out of character. I mean, they're just like, they're doing things that are lawful good, like a soldier or a police officer, but they're actually neutral,
Paladin.
so they should be more indifferent to both sides, or they're playing more evil when they should be playing more good, and it kind of breaks the mood of the game when you have characters that are playing outside of where they're supposed to be. And granted, there's supposed to be some float room, but
I mean, that's why they call it role-playing games. You're supposed to assume a role when you play it.
yes, and if you pick lawful good for your character, you should play that character according to what you built for it.
Gary's chaotic evil.
I always
We
played,
should-
I always
always
played
been-
neutral.
I've always
We
been
should. Oh, sorry. Continue.
I was always I always loved the lawful evil myself.
Lawful evil is a really interesting character to play. So
Yeah,
you-
that sums Birch's guys up in a nutshell.
yeah.
Guys
You-
with power word kill that do it. That have it but don't really abuse it.
They're the antagonists, but they play with a sense of honor too.
They play by rules.
It's
Yeah.
almost
Yeah.
like an honest thief or something. It's kind of it's
Yeah.
kind of hard to
Although
put
it's
into words.
oxymoronic, but anyways. Right. All right. Well, we probably should go ahead and wrap up
Steve.
then.
I wanted
We
to-
should like. Oh, sorry. I
go,
was
go
one
ahead.
last
Go
thing.
ahead.
We should like all take the. We should all take that test to find out what our personalities are. I don't know. I'm fascinated with personality quizzes, even though they're not all like accurate. They're entertaining.
Yes. At the minimum, they're entertaining. But I'd like to thank everybody for coming. Thank Jason for taking some time out to hop in here with us, despite
man.
the headaches of getting Skype going for him.
Right. We appreciate it.
And we'll see you guys next weekend.
See ya.
See ya.